Hello everyone and welcome to Merlin's Manor. Today I'm going to be reviewing the legacy game Charterstone, designed by Jamey Stegmaier and published by Stonemaier Games. Now this is a legacy game with lots of kind of secret stuff that's revealed throughout the game, and so I'm going to be very careful not to say anything that would be spoilers, which is going to make this review kind of a little bit difficult to do because I can only kind of allude to certain things without really getting into any details. I'm going to do my best to go ahead and tell you what I think with giving you enough details without going into any kind of spoilers. So let's go ahead and we can't really do a gameplay overview because that would be, I can't even show you the board and it would kind of get into some spoilers pretty quickly. So I'm just going to kind of go straight into the review and talk about the game itself and what I think about it. First of all, the components and art are stellar, as any Stonemaier Games is. If it's a Stonemaier game, it's probably going to have great components and artwork. They just go hand in hand. They do a really quality job. We have these metal coins here, which are really nice. Got a nice heft to them as well. You got these wooden resources here, and a few more wooden resources over here. You've got this Charterstone die, which has a symbol for each charter, which is used for various things throughout the game. And then there's a bunch of other pieces I can't really get into because, again, spoilers. But then everything is really good quality, looks nice. The artwork on the cards is nice. I don't even think I can really show you much of that without getting into spoilers, so I'm not going to show it to you. But just take my word for it that everything looks great. Components are good quality, as you would expect from a Stonemaier's game. Also, the storage for the game is really good, especially for the legacy idea here. You've got things that are kind of hidden away in certain places, as well as you've got storage boxes for each of your characters. And so each person has a box that they keep all of their things in from game to game. So that works out really well. There's a box in there for you to be able to put all the resources in. Everything is really well done to be able to quickly get things out and put them where they need to be and to continue from game to game for this legacy game. And so I like the storage as well. Now, I was talking about the theme. The theme is really good. It really implements well. You're building up this town area, and each person has their own kind of charter area within this town. And you're going to be adding things to that, growing your area. You're going to be relying on the areas of others, kind of getting resources from them, doing things that are going to get you points from different Charterstone areas, as well as different main actions that you're going to be doing throughout. From building things into your charter is going to give you points. From doing things that are going to, opening boxes, it's going to give you more stuff that's going to continue the storyline a bit, is going to give you points. You've got a cloud area that you can go to and get points. And so you're getting all these different points that go really thematically well with building up this city. And so I like the theme of it. I like that there's a story that goes along with it as well. You're unlocking the storyline as you go. And each storyline kind of gives you a little bit something different to focus on each round. You've got kind of a goal that comes out each round that's a little bit somewhat vague, but you kind of get an idea of what you're going to be going for. And just the story keeps you kind of engaged and going through as a legacy game should do. And so I enjoyed the story as well. Let's go ahead and get into the gameplay, the meat of this here. And again, this is going to be probably the most tough part for me to discuss without getting into spoilers, and so I'm going to keep things very vague. I was almost even tempted because there's one mechanic that really I could have done with being able to do a minor spoiler on, but I even almost thought of saying, okay, skip to this next area of the timeline, but I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to keep it completely spoiler-free and just kind of allude very vaguely to it here. And so the gameplay itself, as you're building up your Charterstone, there's going to be certain elements that are going to encourage you to use your area a little bit more, to a certain degree focus on your area a bit. And so that itself kind of sometimes makes things a little bit same from game to game because of the fact that you're incentivized to use your own area more. But at the same time, you're not going to fully focus on the area, at least not if you want to be able to be successful and win the game, because you're going to have to get resources from other areas. Other areas may have something that combos really well with something in your area, so you want to go over there for that. you're gonna want to be able to open boxes, and so you're gonna be going there. Some games you might, and so some games you may have certain things that you saved over from the last game that's going to get you really kind of focused on a certain area. But then the next game you may have utilized all of that, and you've got something else that you've been able to save up for the next game. And so you've got all these different things that are going to take you different places. So while to a certain degree there is a familiarity of wanting to stay in your own area a little bit more, and you'll see that from game to game that's going to encourage you in that, but there's also going to be other things along the way that's going to encourage you to branch out more. And so you can get stuck in a rut of focusing too much on your own area, but at the same time, to be successful, you're going to want to branch out a little bit more. And so it's going to keep the game fairly interesting for you. Now, there's one area of the board that's a bit competitive, as you are trying to get the most reputation to get 10 points, and then second place gets a certain amount of points, and third place gets a certain amount of points. And so you're going to be wanting to try and get the most in that area. But at the same time, you're spending influence tokens to put there, and influence, you only have so much of it. Some of them you can get back, but the ones that go to that track you can't get back, and certain other places you can't get back. And so you want to be careful spending too much of those, because once you're out of influence tokens, you can't do any actions to take those influence, and then you're quickly advancing to the end game. So you better hope that you have gotten done all that you want to get done by the time you run out of that influence, because every time it comes to your turn, you're going to advance that token closer to the end game. And so you're going to really speed things up there. And so you kind of have to balance how much you're going to go put into that reputation track, as well as other things that use your influence. Now, this is a worker placement game, and so you're going to be placing workers out. And there's a kind of a friendly kind of thing that goes along with it to a certain degree, because instead of blocking spaces, you actually, when somebody goes to somewhere where you're at, you get knocked back. And so there's this kind of push and pull. Do I really want to go there right now and give them an extra chance, because you have 2 workers to put out, and after you put those 2 workers out, and if you want to go to anything outside of your charter like that, you're going to have to call those workers back, and that takes an entire turn out. And so, but if somebody goes where you are, well, you get to take an extra turn before you have to call your workers back. And so instead of blocking spaces like in a lot of worker placement games, here you're actually able to go somewhere, but you have that, do I really want to go there because it's going to send them back, or do I want to try and hope to wait them out to where they have to collect their people, and then I can go there without giving them the extra little benefit there. So that's a good, cool little push and pull there you've got. There's lots of different paths to victory. Lots of different ways that you can go. You can focus, and you're going to find yourself probably focusing on something different in different games. Some games you're going to really focus on comboing in your own area, and you're probably going to have a lot of those combos anyway in most games. But then you're going to branch out in different areas depending on the game. Sometimes the goal for the game will encourage you to go a certain direction for getting points. And so I really enjoy that there's just so much going on to this game, so many different ways that you can go, so many things you can focus on. While it's at the heart, it's a very simple worker placement game. It's not going to be anything that's too heavy, too hard to wrap your mind around. There are a lot of choices to be made, but at the same time, there's a lot of good combos you can kind of look for, and that can kind of give you kind of a tunnel to look through and to focus on a certain pathway in a game. And so I really, really enjoy the gameplay. It's simple to get into. The ease of access of this game, anybody can really probably play this game. I played it with my 9-year-old, and she was able to get into it, though it was a bit long for her, and she kind of gave up on it after a while. And that brings me to the next thing that I want to mention is the Otama. The Otama is really good for this game. Especially when you first start playing with it in a round, it really wants to get out ahead, and you almost feel like you're not going to be able to catch up to it. And so it encourages you to really focus on scoring points quickly so you can just try and keep up with the Otama. Now, I did find the Otama kind of runs out of steam as you kind of get more steam. Well, not really that it runs out of steam, but it doesn't. It really kind of starts out fast and stays at its own pace. And you start out slow and you get faster and faster, and so you can kind of overtake eventually the Otama. And there's different ways that you can kind of scale up the difficulty of the Otama. I think it was really cool that you can play with or without the Otama. As a 2-player game, you could just be 2 players, or you can add an Otama in there. You can add a couple Otamas in there in order to really mix things up. You take 4 cards out of the Otama deck each time, so you have a little bit of a mystery as to what the Otama is going to do throughout its turns. And the Otama system is really easy to follow. And another neat thing about the Otama is you can throw it in there midway through the game, like especially if somebody drops out. Like my daughter dropped out of our campaign, and so we went ahead and just tossed the Otama in for her. and really worked out well, being able to keep that 3-player count throughout the game. And the Otama added a little extra challenge there, added a way that kind of got in the way sometimes and kind of messed up your ideas. Grabbed something you were wanting to go, or went somewhere and got something you wanted that's no longer there anymore. And so you really had to kind of think ahead with the Otama as well, and think what you might want to hurry up and do just in case it gets that card that's going to take it somewhere. And so I really enjoyed how the Otama implements into the game really well and allows you to be able to sub in if somebody drops out of your campaign. The replayability of this game is kind of an interesting thing to talk about. Definitely you're going to get 12 plays out of this game because that's how long the campaign lasts, and it keeps you involved and keeps you interested, in my opinion, in the game all the way throughout those 12 games. You can buy a recharge pack and play the opposite, and you flip the board and you start playing on the other side of the board. It's the same board, it's just double-sided there, and you start a whole new campaign. You can get 24 games out of it if you buy the recharge pack. And I think 2 campaigns would keep you interested, especially if you had a different group that you wanted to play with and play through that, or even with the same group, just going again. I think 2 campaigns really easily could keep your attention there. But then beyond that, it's kind of interesting. I haven't personally played the final legacy board, because when you're done, you get to play on the board that you've created. But honestly, I don't feel that into continuing to play it as one-off games using the legacy board. My interest was mainly in that storyline and that building up of your Charterstone. I think that's really where this game shines, is you're building this Charterstone and you're building up these different combos. And then once you've got that, and it's the end of the game and you want to just try and play with the game, it almost feels like, well, there's not a whole lot in there, because the big part of that game, really, the big part of the interestingness of this game is building up that Charterstone and growing your little area and getting these new combos and seeing the new combos your friends are creating and you can kind of use to bounce off of. That's really the biggest pull to this game, what makes it fun and interesting. Once we got the game in its complete state, you can play it. I just personally haven't found the interest in it, and so I think others might very well find the interest in continuing to play the game as one-off games with the already built legacy board. There's definitely, you can keep doing that. There's different things throughout the game that gives you different, even though you're not adding to there. You've got, well, I'm not even sure what I can talk about, but there are things that will keep things mixed up from game to game. And so you do get a bit of a different game even there. I just personally, once I was done with the campaign, I didn't want to play it as one-offs. I may eventually play a few of them that way, but it's not something that's going to really keep pulling me back. The fun of the game really is that campaign and building it up. Now for my final thoughts on Charterstone. I rate this game a 7 out of 10, which is a good game. It has decent replayability, has great art and components. The theme is interesting, the storyline is interesting, keeps you coming back and wanting a little bit more. And it's got a very simple worker placement game that has a lot of depth to it once you try and figure out different strategies to be able to score points. And as you are building up your Charterstone, it's a lot of fun. And so I highly recommend this game if you are into campaign legacy style games. It works really well if you enjoy worker placement games. It's a good, simple worker placement. It'd be even a decent one to start somebody out with, especially if they're into the idea of a campaign style game. I would highly recommend Charterstone in that situation. There are a lot of options, but you do start out small and you get more and more options as you go. And so it's very easy to kind of ease into. And so I highly recommend Charterstone as a early worker placement game. And if you enjoy this legacy style game, I'd recommend checking it out. If you enjoyed this video, I encourage you to hit that like button, subscribe to see more videos, and I will catch you in the next video.